Welcome back to Anxiety Makes Me Poop. It's Sunday morning. I have my coffee. It's a little bit chilly. I'm going to try and go for a run, but I thought maybe I would talk to you first, or basically just talk to the universe and help myself while I'm helping you, or whatever, keep this community going, right? I want to talk about, and Cass is coming this week too, so that's exciting. I know everyone loves when Cass and I talk, or when Cass is on, so let's talk about the science of anxiety for a minute, because understanding it might actually take some of the fear out of it. And I actually have a really good story when Cass comes to record, so you got to listen to the next episode too, and it truly is anxiety driven. Okay. Anxiety lives in our nervous system. It's not our character. I want you to remember that. When your brain senses a possible threat, the amygdala, which is basically, let's call it the internal smoke alarm, right? It sends out a signal like wee wee. That signal tells your body to release stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol. My husband and I were just talking about cortisol because I'm not feeling the greatest. And so you got to listen to the next episode because Cass and I are going to talk about it. For example, maybe for you, when that smoke alarm, we'll call it, sends off that signal, it could be heart racing. Maybe the rate increases on that, or your breath changes. Maybe it increases there. Maybe your muscles tense up. Maybe your digestion slows down. Now, for me, mine speeds up. Hence the podcast name, right? All of this is part of a fight or flight response. Flight or fight, fight or flight, say that 5 times, I don't know. This system of anxiety, or this type of internal smoke alarm, right, with the adrenaline and the cortisol, it evolved a long time ago, thousands of years ago, to keep us alive. It helped humans survive real danger. Not saying we don't have real danger now, okay? But this is how it all evolved. The problem is that your brain doesn't always know the difference between a lion and an email, or a black bear and a text message. It doesn't know the difference sometimes. So when the threat isn't physical or immediate, like let's say social pressure, maybe financial stress that some of us are going through, maybe some uncertainty, what's going to happen in my future, emotional overwhelm, your body reacts in the same way as being charged by a black bear. It just does. And that's why anxiety can often feel physical. Right now, I have a little bit of stress. This has happened last year. I have a really bad tightness in my chest. Last year, I actually thought I was having a heart attack, and it was 1 week out from my hysterectomy surgery. And I went to, in emergency, I went to my doctor and I said, I think something's going on. I've had a lot of stress. I feel like I'm having a heart attack. So I actually went through all the tests because I was going to be put under the week after for my hysterectomy, or a week later for my hysterectomy, and nothing came about. And she said, you got to slow down. Stop internalizing stress. We had to have that conversation because here I'm thinking I'm having a heart attack. My chest was squeezing. My back was hurting. Actually, both arms were kind of not really numb, but just weak. And I'm like, uh-oh, here we go. This is it. So that's why anxiety often feels physical with the stress and such. So it can show up just like me as chest tightening, stomach issues, dizziness, headaches, muscle pain, fatigue. I mean, the list goes on and on. Maybe that you constantly are restless, feeling like you can't fully relax. I'm a terrible sleeper, so you might be like that too. Here's where, let's call it, modern life comes in. Our brains are constantly exposed to stimulation, notifications, news alerts, social media. I actually just turned off the notifications of my Snapchat and I think something else too, Instagram, because I started realizing that it was just too loud and too noisy for me. And I was putting on the do not disturb, but then I was missing work calls and work text messages, and that's not great. So I ended up just shutting down some of the social media, and I look at it when I think about it. So we're constantly exposed, right, to comparison, pressure to respond immediately. There's very little time for our nervous system to reset and relax. So when the body stays in a prolonged state of stress, cortisol levels remain elevated. And we don't want that. Over time, it can make the nervous system more sensitive And I feel like that's where I'm at now. Like even a little ping on my phone of a text message makes me jump. Not good. It's time to relax. Thank goodness I have a vacation coming up where I'm not going to think about anything. We'll call it that smoke alarm again becomes extra reactive. It starts going off even when there's maybe just a little bit of steam in the room, or like when my husband doesn't really burn anything, but for some reason when he cooks, a little bit of a little bit of that smoke alarm happens. This is called nervous system dysregulation. Okay, it doesn't mean that anything's wrong with you. It means that your system has been under a lot of strain. And I would say don't do that to yourself, but that's hilarious. That's like telling someone to calm down, right? That doesn't happen. If you're listening, you're that kind of person that, you can't just calm down. You're going to be under a lot of strain and stress. You just do that to yourself. And that's why we're all here. We're in this together. This is our community. Another factor is that many people are carrying unresolved stress or trauma, even small, but repeated stressors can train the brain to stay on high alert. I'm always on high alert. The body remains and remembers what the mind tries to forget. So here's an important piece of all that. Anxiety might not always be about fear. Sometimes it's about exhaustion. So we have fear, we have exhaustion, we have tiredness, overstimulation, emotionally overwhelmed, and your brain has fewer resources to filter signals. So everything feels more intense. I hope you're following me. I'm pretty sure you're getting it if you're listening. So listen, that's why we rest. That's why we take the 30 seconds to take a couple deep breaths. That's why we might have to nap for 20 minutes over lunch. That's why we find safety. That's why we find connection with someone positive or something good. And that's why it matters so much to have that backup. Your nervous system stays calm when it receives cues of safety. Find safety. Slow your breathing down. Do gentle movements with yourself. Predictability is always good. A lot of us watch the same movies over and over again just to have that noise in the background, and it's nothing that's going to surprise us. Supportive relationships, as long as they're positive, I always say, as long as they're supportive, as long as they're the right person for you. And another thing is being seen and understood. If you're not feeling seen and you're not feeling understood, it's time to find a new friend. So if you're struggling with anxiety, I'm thinking if you're listening, you might be. It's not because you're failing. You're not failing at anything. You're not failing at life. You're not failing at any choices that you made, okay? It's because your nervous system is doing its job a little too well in a very demanding world right now. So good news, nervous systems can learn safety again, but you got to show them safety. You got to show safety. You got to take those breaths. You got to take those breaks. Quiet time. When we were toddlers, we would get put in quiet time or on a timeout chair. I want that as an adult. Like, put me in a timeout chair. I will sit there and take a nap. Give me 10 minutes. I would love it. Let's go into the timeout chair again, okay? Oh gosh. Listen, with time, support, and compassion, that little smoke alarm does not have to stay loud in your brain forever. And if your smoke alarm has been going off a lot lately, just remember that you're not broken. You're human. You can teach your nervous system that it's safe to relax again, but you got to take the steps. You got to find the quiet times. You got to find that timeout chair. So as we ramp up this new year, I'm going to give you permission to slow down, to take up space, and do what's best for you, whatever that looks like. All right? Have a good day. Talk to you next time.